Good evening, African Confessions. I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from that message that was forwarded to me by one of our admins from our brother, who is saying that he sacrificed his own mother so that he can become a very powerful pastor. And this is the continuation of that message. So I had to find an albino, and not just any albino, but I had to find an albino who was mentally unstable. This was a very difficult task, but at that time, after I had done all of the rituals, I was then assigned 2 bodyguards. That is why you see all of these pastors walking around with a lot of bodyguards. Then you can ask, if these pastors are ritualists, why don't their bodyguards expose them? It is because when you are given these bodyguards, they will also be in the same secret society that you will be in. They will be lower ranked than you, and your bodyguards will actually have their own demons that possesses them, so that they can protect you physically and spiritually. Everything that happens in the spiritual realm, it works as if it is a very big army. Everything goes according to rank. So I had my 2 demons that I used in church, my female demon and my male demon. Then my bodyguards, even though they were men, the other one, he had a female demon. He was married spiritually to that demon. That is why he never dated any woman physically. Then my other bodyguard, that one, he loved women like no man's business. He had a male demon that was assigned to him. The demons that used to possess my bodyguards, they were lower ranked than the demons that were assigned to me, so that I can complete my mission. This is how the spiritual realm works. Even my demons, as higher ranked they were supposed to be protected by lower ranked demons, because a higher ranked demon cannot be seen fighting each and every time. They only wait for the bigger battles. That is when they are called into action. But if they are smaller battles, they send their lower ranked demons to fight on their behalf. So I then gave a mission to my 2 bodyguards to go around the country and to find me an albino woman. Not just any albino woman, but it had to be an albino woman whom I was supposed to sleep with, but she was supposed to be someone who is mentally unstable. They went around the country and they could not find any. After about 4 months, that is when one day they called me. Then they gave me a location. I traveled through that night, going to that city where they were in. When I arrived in that city, they were booked at a certain guest house, and when I walked into that guest house, I knew that everything was going to be okay, because right there, standing in front of me, was my sacrifice. As dirty as she was, but to me at that point in time, she was the most cleanest woman in the world, because she was going to become the source of my power, the source of my everything. I walked to where she was standing and smiling, because she didn't even know what was going on. I kissed her, but her mouth was smelling. But when you are on a quest of power, you don't even care about smell. After that, I had to return back to my place. I was not supposed to sleep with this woman before I could find any of her relatives. Otherwise, the sacrifice will be void. The sacrifice will not be counted. I had to get the permission from one of her relatives, so that in the spiritual realm, it can be accepted that me and that albino woman, we are now husband and wife in this physical realm. I traveled back to the city where I had started my own church. I left my bodyguards behind. They had another mission. At that time, that albino woman was heavily involved in drugs. So I asked my bodyguards to take that woman to a certain drug rehabilitation center. But the owner of that drug rehabilitation center was actually one of our members. So he knew everything that was going on. I didn't want a situation whereby now I had gotten hold of this albino woman. Then the next thing, my bodyguards will tell me that they don't know where she went. I wanted her to be in a safe environment, and I knew that when she will be in that drug rehabilitation center, she will be in a safe environment. When I was back in the city, one day I received a call. Then my bodyguards gave me a call and told me that they were able to trace one of that woman's relatives. The relative that they had managed to trace, it was her brother. And I was happy because this was more than enough. The reason why I was happy, it was because I knew that if they shared the same blood, as a man, he had the authority to give me this woman as my wife. That is the reason why on the day of the wedding, a father has to walk a daughter down the aisle so that he can hand over a daughter to the man that she'll be getting married to. This means a lot in the spiritual realm. And when my bodyguards told me that they had located one of that woman's relative and he was a man, I was more than happy. I rose up from where I was seated. Then I started to shout and speaking in tongues, but not those holy tongues. The problem that I had was that thing of being married to a mad woman. And when I was being given the rules that I was supposed to follow, the rules that I was given for this ritual was that I had to let this woman be. If she didn't want to bath, I had to let her, but she was supposed to stay at my property. This was quite difficult for me because at that time when I had met her whilst she was in that guest house with my bodyguards, she was really dirty and it disturbed me because I asked myself, how many people has she slept with in the past so that she can just get a quick of the drugs that she was taking? This was going to be like a punishment in my life, almost like turning my life into a prison. This was like a prison sentence. There were days that whenever I thought that I was going to be married to a mad woman, I would hate my life. But I kept on telling myself that I am now in the devil's camp and there is no reverse gear. I was not allowed to marry, but I was allowed to have partners or women that I can use. This is what I used to do. Whenever I would finish having intercourse with that mad woman, I was not supposed to bath, but I was supposed to look for a woman who was not mad, then have intercourse with her. This was a way of cleansing myself because of all the rituals that I kept on doing with that woman who was a mad woman. As for her brother, I gave that man a lot of money, but the money that I had given him, it had other rituals that were performed on it so that he can die in a short period of time. And that is what happened to that man. He suddenly died and the devil harvested his soul, but at least he had enjoyed a little bit because before I had met him, he was just a poor man with no future. He was not going anywhere. At that time, I felt as if I was doing him a great favor. Time went by. At first, when I was having intercourse with that mad woman, I kept on telling myself that I have to do this so that I can become more powerful. But the more that I got into bed with her, the more it became so difficult for me because I'll just look at her and how dirty and smelly she will be by the time that me and her will be having intercourse. Then there was this other lady that I was dating. This lady, she was one of the women that regularly attended my church. And from the first day that they came and they said that they wanted to give their lives to Jesus Christ, I knew that the woman, she had something deep down in her heart. She had a secret. Because when you are doing all of this evil spiritual stuff, you immediately know when someone is not an innocent soul. I knew that she had fallen in love with me. By the time that I was praying for her, I felt the love that was inside her heart. Then I told her that she needed to come and visit me in my office, but not on a Sunday. I told her the day that she was supposed to come, and yes, on that day she came, and the dress that she was wearing on that day, it was not a decent dress. I then told her everything that I had felt the time that I was praying for her. she was embarrassed, and she said, by that time that you were praying for me, her mind was not set on the prayer, but her mind was set on me. She wanted me to take her into my bed, and that I did. But I broke the rules because that woman, I don't know what happened between me and her. Unfortunately, she became pregnant, and I was not allowed to make any woman pregnant. This was made known to me by a cat. Then immediately I felt an evil presence in my room that woke me up. When I woke up, I saw that there was a black cat inside my room. Then it spoke with me. It just said, what you have done is not permitted. You have to make sure that this pregnancy is aborted. You don't want to go on the wrong side of your master. And I knew that I had to do this. When that woman came to me and when she told me that she was pregnant, already I knew that she was pregnant, but I pretended as if I didn't know anything. I started to rejoice and we prayed together. But I took her to one of my personal friends who is also in these secret societies, who was a doctor. Then he assisted me in making sure that the pregnancy that woman was carrying was not going to last long. She had a miscarriage. She didn't know that I was the one who was responsible in the termination of her pregnancy. But unfortunately, she passed away. I think that she had some kind of an infection. I don't know what went wrong. But I kept on telling my friend who is a doctor, but he has never told me what might be the reason why that woman died. She just died in her sleep. This was made known to me by her husband. What had I turned into? This was not what I thought when I entered into this ministry. I wanted to be someone who could preach the word of God to the people who didn't know the Lord Jesus Christ. But now I was fighting on the other side. So that woman that fell pregnant for me, and I had to make other plans for her pregnancy to be terminated. After she passed away, I started to dream about her each and every time when I go to sleep. I always dream about that woman. If I don't dream about that woman in my dreams, my mom will visit me. But as for my mother, I am not afraid of her as such. But this woman, she is the one who scares me the most, because what happens is that sometimes she can just appear in my dreams, but when I wake up, I can actually see her. She will be standing right next to my bed. Sometimes her face will be covered with blood. She just appears there maybe for a second or 2 seconds, then she just disappears. But that is just too much for me. When I am driving, sometimes I can just see her for a brief period of time standing in the middle of the road. It's like she follows me everywhere that I go. Yes, I had the power and the money. I could get any woman that I wanted, but I was not happy at all. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was forwarded to me. The scary part is when he is saying that whenever you will be sleeping, he sees that woman in his dreams. When he wakes up, that woman will be standing right next to his bed. Strange things do happen in this world. Dear listeners, please let us talk about this issue in the comment section. I'll be back with another episode.